And so if divine wisdom is always available, then one of the most important spiritual practices is learning to ask questions that allow wisdom to answer. Fear asks one kind of a question, and wisdom asks another. Today we're going to explore the difference. And so I've been reading a book. It's titled The Way of Effortless Mindfulness. And could I get my first slide? And in that book, there was this question. And I think it's behind me. Yes. What is here now if the peace you are seeking is already here? What is here now if the peace you are seeking is already here? And so most of us assume that peace is something that we need to create or attain. So then what happens is our mind becomes a seeker and goes in search of peace. It goes in search of ways that we can attain peace. It goes in search of spiritual techniques for achieving peace. It finds ways that we can control things to bring about peace. See, but the beauty of this question is that it interrupts that whole process. It interrupts the mind going out and seeking. If peace is already here, then the issue is not about creating peace, because it's always present. The issue, or the question becomes, what is it that is blocking the peace, or our experience of peace? Emmett Fox often used the analogy. Emmett Fox was, for those that don't know, because I don't know how much Emmett Fox is being taught these days, but he was a contemporary of Ernest Holmes. And one of his analogies I remember really well, and I loved it, and it was he would use the idea of a screen and a projector. And the concept was you would project a movie, let's say it's a war movie, onto the screen. And in that movie, there may be, explosions and firing of guns and flooding and all kinds of things. And after the movie is played, you examine the screen, and what you find is that the screen's not wet. It has no holes in it. It's not on fire, and it didn't burn. And so the analogy is that the screen is that presence, that divine presence, that is always there. And the movie being projected is, our stories. It is our creations, our thoughts, our beliefs. And so the beauty of this question here, what is here now, if the peace you are seeking is already here, is it's calling for us to turn our attention from the movie to the screen. Now, that has nothing to do with my talk today. I just thought it was a great quality question. And that is what my talk is about, the questions that we ask ourselves. What is that about? And so, I took a class for practitioners on asking questions, asking the right questions, during a session or whatever. And it was very powerful, and it was wonderful, and it really, what it reminded me of is Dr. Carolyn. Because the one thing I always remember from taking classes from her, and also having her as a practitioner and a prayer partner, is she asked the best questions. And so I want to be like her. And so through this process of this book that asks a lot of great questions and taking that course, what I began to understand is I don't really think too much about the questions I ask myself. I just ask. I just come up with these questions, and I don't really think a lot about it. And the other discovery I made is that these questions are always tied to an assumption. Okay, so what do I mean by that? I'm not sure. Okay, no, I am sure. So if I ask the question, why am I so stressed? The assumption is that I am stressed. If I ask the question, why can't I find love? The assumption is that love is absent. If I ask the question, why does nobody appreciate me? The assumption, I'm not appreciated. Now, this isn't rocket science. This is pretty simple stuff. But here's the catch on all of that. The mind automatically begins looking for evidence to support our assumptions. That's the key. And so with that in mind, I found this quote, and I tried to find out who said it, and basically what it said is, this is just common knowledge, so here we go. The mind is an excellent servant. Whatever question you give it, it goes to work answering. The problem is that it doesn't stop to ask whether the question is useful. Well, there you go. So here's a great example. Imagine if you're Googling something. Okay, and let's say I'm going to Google, why is the world dangerous? What kind of results do you think I'm going to get? It's going to confirm all the danger that exists in the world, whether it's nuclear buildups or, conflicts or whatever it might be. But if I type in, where are people creating peace and healing? Well, that's going to turn out a whole different result, isn't it? I'm going to find out about all the peace that's in the world, about all the different peace networks and all the wellness and healing that's taking place in the world. Our consciousness works in a similar way. So why does any of this matter? Well, we are religious scientists, right? And so what do we know? We know that thought is creative. And Ernest taught us that where attention goes, energy flows. Say that with me. Where attention goes, energy flows, and then our experience follows. Okay? So, the question is, questions, then what they do is they actually become mental treatments in disguise. Because it causes our minds to go looking for those assumptions. So a question like, why am I always struggling? Becomes a treatment for struggle. A question such as, how is abundance already expressing in my life? Now what we're doing is we're turning it and we're using the tools and we're actually coming from a whole different perspective. How is abundance already expressing in my life becomes a treatment for abundance. Dr. Wayne Dyer, who I love to listen to, he states, changing your question changes your life because questions direct awareness. You don't find what you're not looking for. So an empowering question doesn't necessarily provide a positive answer. What it does is it provides an empowering direction for our consciousness. And all based on assumption. So the goal is not to fool ourselves by being in a state of denial. What it is, it's about opening ourselves to something greater. And so I have some examples of some limiting questions, and then some hidden assumptions, and then some empowering alternatives. So let me start off. So the first one is, why do I keep attracting this into my life? Has anybody ever thought that? So what's the hidden assumption? I'm trapped in a pattern I cannot change. And so what's that mind going to do? It's going to go and verify and show evidence of how you're so trapped. So what's an empowering alternative? What is this experience trying to teach me about myself? What new belief or behavior would allow me to create a different result? What am I now ready to release so that something greater can emerge? So here's another one. Why do I keep making the same mistake over and over? The assumption, I'm incapable of learning or changing. So the empowering alternative might be, what is this mistake attempting to teach me that I haven't fully learned yet? I've been there many times. How am I growing through this experience? Or this one I really like is, what small change could I make today that would move me into a new direction? Another one, why can't I get out of this financial rut? The assumption, I'm stuck and resources are limited or unavailable. Where is abundance already present in my life would be an alternative question. That's always a good one because, abundance is really about circulation, Financial abundance is always about circulation. So when you start asking the question, where is abundance already present in my life, you begin to really recognize that. And again, the mind goes in search of the evidence of abundance in your life. What opportunity for greater prosperity might I be overlooking? And then the last question I have is, why can't I find the right person to be my partner? The right person is missing or unavailable. So a better way to look at that might be, what qualities am I developing that will support a healthy relationship? See, it's always about the work that we do within ourselves. It's not about changing the folks out there. How is life preparing me for a loving? Oh boy, I hit it one there. How is life preparing me for a loving and meaningful partnership? So those are all kind of interesting examples, I guess. But I want you to recognize that there is a deeper pattern underneath all of those questions. Notice that each limiting question begins from the assumption that something is wrong. Something's wrong with my relationships. Something's wrong with my choices. Something's wrong with my finances. Something's wrong with me. So a spiritually grounded person begins from a different assumption. That assumption is that life is seeking to express something greater through me. Life is seeking to express something greater through me. That person stands on a different foundation and looks at life differently. And that foundation of belief sounds a little bit like this. Can you get the slide? Thank you. Life is for me, not against me. I can learn and grow from every experience. There is always a greater possibility seeking expression. Can you see from that foundation of looking at things how the questions that you ask yourself might change? It might change to something that looks like this. What is life teaching me here? What am I being invited to learn? What possibility am I not yet seeing? See, that single shift from our foundation of thought moves consciousness. It moves us from victimhood to creativity. It moves us from reaction or judgment to curiosity. It moves us from frustration to spiritual discovery. In many ways, our questions, our curiosity, it opens the doorway through which transformation occurs. Did you know that much about questions? So every question is a doorway. And so some doorways lead us into deeper fear and anxiety and limitation and separation. And then there are other doorways that through asking the right kind of questions, empowering questions, that lead us to self-discovery, lead us to growth, that empower us, that enable us to create the life that we truly desire. So, knowing that the questions we ask determine where attention goes, and that the questions become mental treatments in disguise, I invite you to stand up, if you will. And repeat after me. Why am I so beautiful? Why is there so much abundance in my life? Why am I surrounded by joy? Why is it that there is so much love here right now? Why me? Namaste. And so we have Katie Barrett to sing another song for us. Thank you very much. And Mo, too. Very good.